Hey guys, welcome to another limited review video for Oath of the Gatewatch. I've already done, after today, the only color I have left to do is green, so that will be up tomorrow, as well as several other videos relating to my predictions for how Oath of the Gatewatch Limited will pan out. So today we're looking at the best commons and uncommons in red, and we'll just go ahead and jump right into that. The best uncommon in red, I think, is Devour in Flames. It's just an incredibly powerful removal spell. It's first pickable, I think. It does have a downside in that you have to return a land you control to your hand. But after that, you can kill, do 5 damage to a creature or to a planeswalker. I mean, that's not going to come up a huge number of times in limited, but it can. I mean, there are going to be, 4 planeswalkers floating around between Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch, and they're all mythic, so you'll see one occasionally. Let me know if you ever get to kill a planeswalker with this, because then you're really happy. But it can also kill most creatures in the format. And the downside it has, is a downside, but there are enough cards with landfall, both in Oath of the Gatewatch and in Battle for Zendikar, although there's way more in Battle for Zendikar, I'm thinking right now, that it's, while it's a downside, you do get a certain... you don't lose everything in some decks when you return the land, and most of the time, if you're paying 3 mana to kill a creature with 5 toughness, and even if there's a downside to it, like returning a land, you're not going to be too upset. I mean, if you have to play this on turn 3, you will be, but how often do you need to kill a 5 toughness creature on turn 3, So, you don't usually. So, it's a very efficient, powerful card. And the card I have as the honorable mention for best red uncommon works very well with it. And that is Embodiment of Fury. It's a 4-mana 4/3 trample. I'm already sold. And then on top of that, land creatures you control have trample. So if you have any Awakened cards, you pick up any in your Battle for Zendikar packs, that makes them better. Also any man lands, as well. But on top of that, he has a landfall ability, which works well with the previous card, in that whenever a land is battlefield under control, you get to make a 3/3 elemental. So in a turn, and it'll have haste, by the way, and trample because of Embodiment of Fury. So it's going to happen. It's not going to be super common because they're both uncommon. But a turn where you play the 3-mana spell to kill a 5 toughness creature, return a land to your hand, play a land, and then suddenly you have a 4/3 and a 3/3 swinging at your opponent, assuming you killed their best blocker. And that's very attractive. I know it's an ideal situation, but even without the previously mentioned card, Embodiment of Fury is pretty strong in that he's a 4-mana 4/3 with trample. Gives all your lands trample, which are primarily going to be the ones that he animates, but nevertheless, he can make it so your lands suddenly become threats. And sometimes, you don't really need that part of the card because the board's not in a state where you really want to be attacking with the 3/3 land that you might need for mana. But he still comes with a pretty solid body and with an evasive ability and trample. So I think he's probably the second best red uncommon in the format. All right, so we'll move on to best commons. At number 3, I have Maw of Kozilek. He's a 4-mana 2/5. Again, I'm already sold on this card as it has, it's a very good blocker, clearly. It also, doesn't hit the opponent for nothing when it does swing. But on top of that, it has an activated ability. You do need to have colorless mana available for it, but it's one of those that you only want to activate once a turn, so he's not super, super intensive about colorless mana the way some other creatures are in this format. And what's great about him is he can sort of transform from being this great blocker, a 2/5, into being a great attacker if you use his ability. And actually, even as a blocker, sometimes his ability will be good because your opponent just won't be able to attack with creatures who have 3 toughness, who have 3 power, but will die to 4 damage either. They can't attack with multiple 3s into this Maw, the way 3 power guys into this Maw, the way, they could with 3. What am I thinking of? -2? Let's do some math here. But either way, it can trade up. It can kill creatures with higher power, with higher toughness than you would think because of it. They can't attack with 3s into it. I was mistaken there, but... they would have to trade at least. So unlike a lot of blockers who would sort of just bounce off one of them, the Maw can actually just kill one of the creatures. And like I said, it can shift from being a very good blocker into being a pretty good attacker. And I think that's a pretty good deal, especially at the amount of mana he costs. At number 2, I have Boulder Salvo. It's not the most efficient removal spell ever most of the time. 5 mana to do 4 to a creature or player. No, just creature, excuse me. But it also has Surge, so there are going to be situations, especially in the later game, where you've got your Salvo in your hand, and you're going to play it, but then say you top deck a 2 or 3 mana spell, and you can play that and the Salvo in the same turn. and that's pretty attractive. I mean, it's still an okay spell as a 5-mana 4 damage spell, but it's not amazing. But the fact that it has the flexibility of Surge is nice, and it is a removal spell, so it is one. I mean, it's not one I would take ultra highly, but it's one I would take over good creatures like Mav, Kozilek, and things like that. And at number 1, we have an efficient removal spell from Red that they always get, and Reality Hemorrhage. And this is basically Shock, except it's devoid. It can hit a creature or a player. It's instant speed, so it's a very efficient removal spell. There are a lot of things in the format it can't kill, but the fact that it can hit the opponent's dome and the fact that it can that it's instant speed and extremely efficient is good, because Red doesn't have much in the way of instant speed removal at common or uncommon in this format. All right, there I also have one honorable mention. It's a card that looks kind of, not overly impressive, but Red in some ways doesn't have the most impressive commons, I wouldn't say, but Cinder Hellion's not bad. He's a 5-mana 4/4 Trampler, which is a pretty good deal. And on top of that, it can ping the opponent for 2. I mean, there's nothing really interesting to talk about here other than that it's a creature that's passes the vanilla test, but also can help you finish off your opponent by pinging them for 2. So, typical Red kind of card, and it's a card that I like a decent amount, and I would take, certainly after the other commons and uncommons I mentioned if I were in Red, but I would take, I'd be pretty happy to have 1 to 2 of these in most of my decks, I think. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.